I didn't even add myself to the stream, but here we are, live, balls deep breakdown, Wednesday night. What's going on, you guys? We got UFC Vegas 50 coming up on Saturday here. We got a main event of Magomed Ankalaev facing off against Thiago Santos. But the fight that we're going to be talking tonight about on Balls Deep Breakdown is the Drew Dober versus Terrance McKinney fight. Terrance McKinney's just fought 2 weeks ago, got a first-round rear naked choke submission win over Fares Ziam, and he is taking this fight on short notice after Ricky Glenn had to pull out of this fight with an injury. So here we are, you guys, Wednesday night, last Balls Deep breakdown of the week on this channel, you guys, and we're going to get after it. Let's see what you guys are saying here in the comments. We got my guy Victor De Jesus first in the room today saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? I smell violence on this one." Well, I smell violence on this one too, my man. I have got a bet on the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight. It's an auto bet for me for basically every Terrance McKinney fight, but yes, sir, violence definitely on the menu for this one. Thank you for hanging out, Victor. Good to see you in here, brother. We got my guy Jazz in here saying, "Never say never, but I don't see how this hits the scorecards." Yeah, man, I agree with you. Nothing's ever a lock. This is a wild sport that we bet on and that we watch, and anything can happen. But yeah, Terrance McKinney, 100% of his fights have finished inside the distance, whether they've been wins for him or losses for him. He's taken it on short notice, and he just fought 2 weeks ago, 2 weight cuts. 2 fights in 2 weeks. It's a lot. So I think it finishes inside the distance. We got my guy Sean Cundy in the room. Ring a ding ding. We have a donation, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for all the hard work you put in, brother Sean. Thank you for donating to the show. It's much obliged. It really makes a big difference for me, and I really appreciate you for doing that, brother. Let's enjoy this show today. Let's break down these fights, man. We got Chris in the room saying, "Oi, can't wait to hear your deep dive on this one. Stats whiz Uncle Weezy. I already got some money on McKinney, and I'm not ashamed of it." Yeah, man. He's been looking good. He's on a 5-fight win streak. I think at least a 5-fight win streak right now. And he's putting it all together. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he handles this step up in competition. And Drew Dober on short notice, just 2 weeks removed from another fight and another weight cut. But this is a guy whose wrestling is being slept on, I think, by a lot of people. He's got a fantastic wrestling game, and he's got a lot of power in his hands. So it's a very, very interesting fight, and that's why I felt like had to be breaking this one down with you guys tonight. We got Blood Money in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Statmaster Weezy? What's up, Blood Money? Good to see you in here, brother." We got my guy Chronic Combat Conversations. Are you smelling an underdog here? Yeah, I'm actually picking Drew Dober to win this fight, but I think that Terrance McKinney is incredibly live here, and I'm not betting on Dober. What I'm betting on is that this fight finishes inside the distance, and I know that Terrance has got thunder in those hands of his, and that his wrestling game is very good, and he works for submissions. He doesn't just take people down to try to hold them down. He really is working to finish the fight down there. So he's a pretty good submission grappler, and he does have the takedown attacks that are a little bit unorthodox to get the fight there. So yeah, Terrance McKinney's absolutely live, and at the price you're getting him at, like plus 140 or so, I think that that's intriguing, but I would just take Terrance inside the distance. I mean, I don't think he's knocking out Drew Dober, but he could submit him. And the way that he goes after it, I really could see him getting this done inside the distance. But at plus money, I don't hate it at all. Good to see you in here, Chronic Combat, man. It's always good to have you with us. We got Matt Chalk saying, I was the one that asked for this Balls Deep, and you mix it up with Pereira versus Silva. So happy to be here for this. Thanks, Weezy. I appreciate that, Matthew. Yeah, man. I had done the Pereira Silva one already, and then because I had done 2 weeks ago the Ziam McKinney Balls Deep breakdown, that was the one for some reason that got in my head that I had done that one. So, but anyway, good to have you here, Matt. And yeah, we're gonna get into this fight, my man. And Power Wipe saying, "I'm about to fall asleep on the toilet. Let's go." Well, we are going, man. Let's roll after it, dude. And we got Monk saying, what up, Uncle Weezy? What up, chat? Time to get balls deep and find out who's going to win this banger of a fight. Let's fucking go. Let's go, Monk. My man. Let's figure it out, dude. Paul Brassfield saying, oh, yes. Salute, Unc. Salute you, Paul, for giving me the ability to watch a little more AJ Fletcher tape today. A 3-round fight that was awesome, man. So thank you for doing that on my website. I shouted you out on the DraftKings show today for giving us that information, because it was the more tape than I had seen on Fletcher and the other 3 fights that I had already watched. So that was very valuable. And Flavor Blasted Butthole saying, I'm ready to cook Vegas this week. Let's do it, man. Let's cook those guys. Let's make some money. And we got Power Wipe saying we'll need to talk about this 1.5 over under. For sure we will. Jeremiah saying we're balls deep tonight, man. Let's work. Let's go. We got Marcus Mustard in the room saying, hi, Sir Weezy. Hi, Marcus Mustard. Let's get it going. We got Uncertainty in the room saying this is the most difficult fight to predict. I just want to follow Uncle Weezy's pick on this fight. Well, I'm going to break it all down from nose to toes for you, Uncertainty, so you don't have to be uncertain on this fight. And we got B with the donation, ring a ding ding, $1 of Canadian money for his Uncle Weezy. Thank you for the donation, B. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being a constant supporter of the show. I appreciate you, my man. Let's go balls deep on the stats in this fight. We got Dr. Kendrick in here with his ear to the ground, ready to see Smooth Jimmy, ready to see Terrance McKinney versus Drew Dober on this card on Saturday. Can't wait to break it down with you guys. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here. We're going to get these stats up, and we're going to get down to business, everybody. So let me see here. We've got the matchups. Drew Dober versus Terrance McKinney. Let's start with the tail of the tape like we always do. I'm going to get the comment off the screen so we can see everything here. And we're going to see that Terrance McKinney, 6 years younger, 2 inches taller, and a 3-inch reach advantage. He fights out of both stances. And Drew Dober is a southpaw fighter. We got Terrance McKinney training out of Sick Jitsu, and we've got Drew Dober out of the Elevation Fight Team in Colorado. So Drew Dober is going to have a big-time experience edge here, you guys. 20 more professional fights, almost 300 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 8 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. But in these 4 years that Terrance McKinney's been fighting, he's got 15 professional fights. So he's been very, very active as a pro, as Terrance McKinney. And then if we look at the UFC experience here, we got Drew Dober with 17 UFC fights. He's 9-7 with a no contest in those 17 fights. Got 150 minutes of cage time. While for Terrance McKinney, he's got 3 UFC level fights. And in those 3 fights, he hasn't even spent 10 minutes in the UFC cage yet. So definitely a huge UFC and pro experience edge here for Drew Dober. But we've got some really nice things on the measurable side for Terrance McKinney here with the 2-inch height advantage, the 3-inch reach advantage, and the fact that he fights out of both stances. And then when we look at the finish stats for these guys, very impressive stuff here. We've got a 69% finish rate overall for Drew Dober in 23 professional wins, 43% by knockout, 26% by submission. And Drew Dober has finished 6 of his 9 UFC wins inside the distance, 5 of them by knockout, 1 by submission. In his losses, Drew Dober has been finished in 45% of his 11 pro losses. That's 5 inside the distance, 4 by submission, 1 by knockout. And it has been in his 7 UFC losses, he's been knocked out, he's been submitted 4 times. So Terrance McKinney, I really do feel like he's comfortable on the feet here. But against a striker the quality of Drew Dober, you might think that he's probably going to go to the wrestling here because he does have a very good submission game. We got my guy Chris just asking the question, which is also a natural question to ask here on this show. Let me just cough here. He said, did I hear Bootsy bark for the dog when you started breaking down the stats? Yes, you heard Bootsy bark. Bootsy's been on Terrance McKinney all week, you guys. He was on Terrance McKinney in Stat Diggers this week, and he is on Terrance McKinney on this week's Just the Tip as well. Bootsy's been going nuts for Terrance McKinney. He cashed a ticket on him against Fares Siam. Really kind of felt like the wrestling would make the difference there, and Bootsy was dead on about that one. And I got to tell you, he's liking the dog in this one as well, man. Anyway, so we do know that Dober can be finished via submission, and we do know that Terrance McKinney here now has a 58% finish rate by submission and a 42% knockout rate. So that is 7 wins by submission inside the distance for Terrance McKinney, 5 by knockout, all 12 wins coming inside the distance, all 3 losses coming inside the distance. He's been knocked out twice, and he's been submitted once. So Drew Dober is a knockout artist, and Terrance McKinney's been knocked out in 2 of his 3 losses. Terrance McKinney, very good submission grappler, and Drew Dober has been submitted in 4 of his 7 UFC losses. So I'm seeing paths for both guys to finish inside the distance here. And, you know, McKinney can get a knockout too. And I'm sure Dober could get a submission as well. He's gotten a submission in the UFC. And Terrance McKinney's not like, he's such an explosive fighter that if the gas tank does abandon him because he's taken 2 fights in 2 weeks, because he's had 2 weight cuts in 2 weeks, you know, because he didn't have time to fully train for this particular opponent, you know, he can absolutely be finished inside the distance via knockout, via submission. And Drew Dober, you know, is a very, very hard-hitting young man here. So he can knock anybody out. And Terrance McKinney, obviously, is a savage finisher in his own right. But my man, Chris, yes, you did hear the dog. And he does like Terrance McKinney. So also in the stats here, we got my guy B saying, Dober KO, Terrance by sub. Feel like either way, it's in the second. Yeah, man, it could be the second. It could be the first. Could be the third. But the second kind of feels like that sweet spot because Drew Dober wasn't even submitted until the 3rd round by Islam Makhachev. So, you know, I see when people are saying, yeah, it's going to be difficult for Terrence to come out here and submit a guy, you know, in Drew Dober quicker than Islam Makhachev was able to. But, you know, it's a fight. You never really know what's going to happen. And if you get caught, sometimes you can get caught in a submission right afterwards as well. Either way, you know, the second round is when we're going to see Terrence start to fade, probably because he has never really even seen the scorecards ever in his career. So it's reasonable for us to suggest that he might gas out early in this fight. You know, like I say, 2 weight cuts in 2 weeks, 2 training camps now, you know, 2 fights. It's a lot. You know, it's a lot for the human body to endure. And he's getting in there with Drew Dober. This is going to be a tough one for him. But, yeah, I could see this one absolutely finishing in the second. And B is also saying 12 in the chat with 12 likes. Got to be proud. Let's make money. Dude, I got the best audience on YouTube, man. And Marcus Mustard saying, roof. That's right, man. And the dog knows, my guy DXJC, he knows that Bootsy is always watching on the outside and always letting us know when he thinks that the underdog has value. Free UFC bet pick saying GOAT. That's right, man. And Chris for the love. Yeah, I personally feel like it goes over 1.5. Yeah. Terrance McKinney's only fight that went over 1.5 in the UFC was the Sean Woodson fight. And I'm not sure if that got over 7. I think it did go over 7.5. But we'll bring up Terrance McKinney's schedule here, you guys. Oh, why is it not? God damn it. Go to the fight card here on Tapology, and we can scroll down to Terrance McKinney here, which is right here. And we'll see if Terrance McKinney, I think he did get over 7.5 in the fight with Woodson. No, 149 round 2. So not in the UFC, but he's been to the 3rd round here. He won via heel hook in the 3rd round over Brandon Todd. And that might be the only time. That's the only time Terrance McKinney has ever been out of the 2nd round. And he's only been into the 2nd round twice in 15 fights. So maybe over 1.5 on short notice might be a little bit risky this week. Just based on the prior performances based on what we know about this guy taking a couple of fights on short notice, and based on, the fact that Terrance knows this too. And if Terrance knows that, he's not ready to go 3 rounds, then Terrance is exactly the kind of guy who can bring that crazy all-out game plan to the cage in the first minute of the first round and just go for broke. And if he doesn't get it, then he'll lose later on. But yeah, I think this actually probably goes under 1.5. But I do see a scenario where it goes over 1.5, and that's if Terrance is able to win minutes and control some time on the ground without being able to submit Dober. Let's see. Power Wipe saying, I'm thinking over 1.5 as well. Dober is a tough dude. Yeah, well, Dober's got a chin on him for sure. Dr. Kendrick saying, I like Drew. 9-7 isn't the best record inside the UFC, but the other guy is new. I'm split. Yeah, it's Dober's been around. We'll look deeper into his wins and losses, but his wins are okay. Flavor Blasted Butthole saying, I've got a bad feeling this may be a decision fight, but an all-out war. Well, it'll be interesting to see if Terrance can go the full 3 on short notice here. But if he does, it would be a hell of a fight. That's for sure. DXJC saying he got KO'd in the first minute of round 2 against Woodson. Yes, sir. And Matthew Chalk saying, I'm not impressed with Dober's takedown defense. Yeah, he can stop him, but if you keep going to it over and over again, like most kickboxers, you can eventually get them down. Chris saying, that's what scares me about having some McKinney money line is I think it goes over 1.5 and the 2 cuts in a month, but I won't be ashamed at all if he loses. Yeah, I mean, dude, the guy's a really good fighter. DXJC, he won over 1.5 in a win in the regionals where he won by knee bar in the first minute of round 3. Yes, sir. And Flavor Blasted Butthole saying Terrence could pull a Hamzat and KO him round 1, man. You never know, dude. He's got that one-punch knockout power, just like Hamzat showed in the Mearshard fight. Dober is known to beat prospects. Hernandez, Nasrat, yes, sir. The way Dober usually loses is not being able to stop takedowns. That's absolutely correct. And fight doesn't go to decision for B. Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you, brother. So for the striking stats, we've got a huge sample size of 17 fights here for Drew Dober, but 4.29 landed and 3.99 absorbed for Dober. And he's thrown almost 2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. So he's thrown a lot of volume. He's shown about 41% accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 0.78% of the total significant strikes that he lands. So that would be, I believe, 6 knockdowns in 17 fights. So it's very good. A half knockdown per 15 minutes. And he has never been knocked down in 17 UFC fights, Drew Dober. This man has an iron chin on him, and he will be able to take shots. 53.58% striking defense is not very good, though. And then we've got McKinney here with some really fantastic numbers. A 6.67 knockdown for total significant strikes landed. In 3 fights that Terrance McKinney has had in the UFC, there have only been a total in those 3 fights of 20 significant strikes landed. Terrance McKinney has a knockdown and only 15 significant strikes landed, and Terrance has been knocked down in only 5 significant strikes absorbed. So you could just tell that there's huge knockdown upside in any Terrance McKinney fight. It's a fight that you want to target for DraftKings because it has a high finish probability, because these guys get knockdowns, because Terrance gets takedowns, and because they just fight in a violent fashion. Drew Dober's the kind of guy who will eat a shot to give one. So he is the ideal opponent if you're setting up for somebody in a DraftKings situation, like, hey, Drew's going to absorb some strikes. He's going to eat one to give one. So he absorbs 4 significant strikes per minute over a 17-fight sample size. So the guy does eat a lot of strikes. Terrance McKinney has only absorbed 0.55 significant strikes per minute thus far in the UFC. I mean, he didn't absorb any in the Freevola fight. And in the Sean Woodson fight, he barely absorbed anything because he was controlling most of it on the ground. And it wasn't until the jump knee that he got knocked out. So, yeah, obviously, both of these guys are very dangerous strikers, but it's Drew Dober who has the kickboxing background here. It's Drew Dober who has that striking pedigree. And he has kind of a process that he follows. He trusts his chin. He moves forward. He pressures. He doesn't have the greatest reach. You see that. He's only got a 70-inch reach, but he's a southpaw, and he will throw with power. He'll march you down, and he'll close the distance. So when you have a chin that you can rely on, that is not a bad offensive game plan to have. Trust your chin, march your opponent down until he's not there anymore. And Drew Dober's been doing a pretty damn good job of that over 17 UFC fights and 9 wins. Now, Terrance, on the other hand, is just explosive with his striking and with his grappling. But when you're that explosive, you can be in great shape. It doesn't really matter. You can't be explosive in the octagon for 15 minutes straight. Your gas tank will not push that pace for a full 15 minutes. So Terrance really hasn't shown us yet that he knows how to slow down his attack and win minutes. We might see that still out of Terrance. He's still only 27 years old, you guys. He's very young. He's got a huge ceiling on him in terms of how high he can go if he can put all the aspects of his mixed martial arts game together, including some defensive additions that he's going to need to make in order to be successful at a higher level than he has been thus far. So this is going to be a really great matchup. Let's get right here into the chat, you guys. Yeah, and Marcus Mustard saying Mir Shart. Yeah, he got his ass shaved that day. That's for sure, man. Chris saying, I kind of expect McKinney to go all out on the feet to start. And if it sees round 2, he's going to try and wrestle hard and find a sub or at least get control time. Yes, I think that's probably right. And he might, he'll engage in the striking until he feels like he doesn't want to anymore. And I'm not exactly sure when that'll be, but Terrance will go to his wrestling. And we've got Shiba Tisu saying, feel like Terrance going to try and force a finish early, gas out, and get finished later. That's the way I'm looking at this fight, because Dober's been around. He can hang on the ground for a while. And I think that with the short notice replacement, McKinney, 2 fights in a short period of time, that it's reasonable to expect that if Terrance, goes for that finish early and doesn't get it, that Dober will be able to finish him inside the distance. Lou bet ya. Can't believe I'm going to bet Dober. And what's up, y'all? Yeah, I mean, Dober's good, man. And he's the one that was training. He's got the full training camp on this fight, and he's fought the better level of competition. So, I mean, I'm with you there, man. I mean, I could see a Dober bet, and I would bet him inside the distance to flush that 160 down to like a plus 140. That's the way I would play it, Lou. Tatooine Dream saying, ahoy, you legends. And saying, legends. Yes. Ahoy, my man. Oi, ahoy to you, Tatooine Dream. Thanks for joining us, brother. Much appreciated. We got Chris for the love saying, could very well gas and get stopped in 2 cuts in a month must suck. Oh, it'd have to suck. It would have to suck, man. I don't even like dieting for like 24 hours. So yeah, a weight cut, and doing 2 of them in a month, that can't be any fun. Blood Money MMA bet saying, man, if this line gets to Dober minus 130, I'm going heavy on him. I actually be at the casino in Reno for the fights this weekend too. Yeah. This line is moving, and look, Terrance is explosive. I mean, when you watch Terrance on tape, I mean, his tape jumps out at your eyes, He's the kind of guy people love to bet on. He finishes fights. He's explosive. He gets big knockdowns. He goes for big double leg takedown attempts. He gets big slams, and he explodes into everything. So I think that Terrance McKinney, the money's still going to be coming in on him, and people are saying that Dober's getting old. He's only 33. He's in his prime still, and he's got 35 professional fights. So he's a grizzled veteran, and he's faced the much better brand of competition over his career in comparison to McKinney. So yeah, I mean, the Dober at minus 130 would be something that would be almost impossible to ignore. And B saying, smash the like, share, let's make mad money. Let's do it, man. Tatooine saying, my bookie put up a market by accident for under 2.5 rounds for nearly plus money. Got taken down pretty quick. Dude, Bovada put it up, and my man DFS by the numbers said, check this out. He got under 2.5 in the McKinney fight here. at plus 165. And it already had the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 220 on the fight on Bovada. So fight doesn't go minus 220. They put up the under 2.5 at plus 165. Of course, he hit it. And then I begged him after I tried unsuccessfully to open a Bovada account. He put a little money down for me too. So yeah, I mean, that's just ridiculous. And B saying, drop a tip if you can for the stats, man. Much appreciated, man. B, ring a ding ding with another tip for me, for Uncle Weezy. Much appreciated, B. You're the man. We got Tatooine Dream saying it's a question mark fight for Terrance for sure. Yes. Blood Money just saying, I think I just broke the like button. Nice. Work it, dude. Smash it. Cuban Assassin saying Dober is tough as nails and he knows his abilities. He's a slick veteran. Yeah, I was just saying that earlier, man, that he fights. The process with which he goes about striking really fits his strengths really well. So, yeah, man, he is a slick veteran and he fights his best win conditions. Chris saying, I love how McKinney can pressure and make an opponent fight on the back foot. Like he walks you down and throws heavy-handed precision. If he can round out his technical striking and cardio, sky's the limit. Yeah, couldn't agree, man. Couldn't agree more because he's got to put it all together still. He's got to learn to pace himself a little bit more because if he could learn how to win some minutes with his striking on the feet, he wouldn't have to sell out for the wrestling as much and as often. And if he's able to do that, he could really put it together. Shoot for the wrestling when he doesn't like how the striking's going. Stop his opponent's tight takedown attempts when he's getting the better of the striking exchanges. He's a guy who could really put all the aspects of his game together with some good coaching. He's already got the wrestling. He's already got the power. He's already got the athleticism. So this kid, and he's only 27 years old, and he's already got 15 fights and 12 wins, all of them by finish. So yeah, absolutely. Sky is the limit, no doubt. Almost feel like Terrance is too explosive for his own good. Well, Shiba Tisu, I'll tell you one thing. He was too explosive for his own good when he jumped off the fence after finishing Frivola and blew out his fucking knee. This is a guy that, he even celebrates winning fights like he fights in explosive fashion, and his body really can't take it. He does need to be a lot more careful about how he manages his energy output. And we don't want to see him celebrating any more wins and putting himself out for extended periods of time by injuring himself, celebrating a win like Johnny Walker did, like Terrance McKinney did. It's happened to a couple other fighters as well, man. It's pretty wild, But yeah, he is a little explosive for his own good sometimes. And Cuban Assassin saying, this reminds me of Yair versus Edgar. Up-and-coming kid versus the savvy veteran. Yeah, and Edgar put it on him, man. Oh, that was a vicious beating. Dr. Kendrick saying, I see Drew pushing a pace with punching and grappling, trying to close the distance, respect the ladder, right? Yeah, man. He should be walking down Terrance because he doesn't want to be fighting off his back foot against this guy. And if he pressures, it'll be a little bit more difficult for Terrance to set up his takedown attempts. And, Dober's at his best when he's marching down his opponent. You see him when he's winning his fights. That's what he's doing. So, yeah, absolutely. Blood Money saying, it took Islam 2.5 rounds to sub Dober, so McKinney definitely doing it quicker. And Drew never been KO'd, so I don't see McKinney doing that on short notice too. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, the MMA math doesn't necessarily work, and McKinney's a different style of fighter than Makhachev. But, McKinney could get a submission, by setting it up with a big strike, and it could happen really quickly. He's just that kind of a fighter. You don't want to doubt him being able to do anything early because he's so explosive. That's why I bet the fight doesn't go to decision for this one. But yeah, the short notice makes it a big deal. How did you unsuccessfully not open a Bovada account? It was a credit card. My credit card was my credit card thought it was a fraudulent transaction. So yeah, and then I've already had another one that was shut down for fraud. So I'm waiting for that one to be back up. So by the time that I found out that I wasn't able to open up the account, the line was long gone. So I'm working on, getting that account too, because Bovada's been opening, they've been opening up some of these over-under lines at ridiculously wrong prices where you can really get a lot of value. So yeah, I'm going to be looking to bet there as well. We got Blood Money saying definitely not doing it quicker is what you said, instead of definitely doing it quicker. Yes. McKinney is not subbing Dober faster is what I meant. Yes. Chris saying, pretty sure Dober still trains at elevation 2. If he could be the Matador, the bull, to work off the jab, he's got the path on the feet for sure. You have to send Bitcoin to Bovada. I thought, yeah, they have a credit card option as well, but I don't have any Bitcoin. So yeah, that's why I wasn't able to open it, I guess. Anyway, I guess I do have to use Bitcoin. All right, yeah. Well, either way, it was a last second thing. I saw the line and I was like, I got to open up an account just to hit that line. So that's why I wasn't able to do it. But anyway, when we get to the grappling stats here, you guys, we've got Drew Dober in 17 fights has attempted 44 takedowns. He's only gotten 8 of them, so less than a 20% takedown accuracy, less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and he's averaging 17.75% control time against his opponents. His takedown defense is 57.5%, so not really good there. He's allowed 20 takedowns in 17 fights. He's had 47 shot against him, so I would say about 2.5 takedown attempts per fight Drew Dober has had shot on him. He's being taken down 2.01 times for 15 minutes, and he's being out-controlled 22.79% to 17.74%. Not terribly inefficient on the ground, because he's got 8 takedowns and his opponents have 20. So you'd like to see maybe his opponents have twice as much control time, but they don't have twice as much. So Drew Dober can get back up when he gets taken down, and he can get a little bit of control time on his own as well. Terrance McKinney, though, we don't have accurate numbers here, unfortunately. This control time number is actually a lot bigger. He got a lot of control time against Woodson, but that being a contender series fight, the control time numbers weren't available for those fights yet, at least on the contender series. So Terrance McKinney's done a fantastic job of out-controlling his opponents on the ground in the Zion and the Woodson fights. And the only other fight that we have that's not those 2 fights is the 7 seconds against Matt Frivola. So we do know that Terrance McKinney can win a ton of minutes on the ground, you guys. So we know that with Drew Dober's 57.5% takedown defense, the fact that he's spent about 35 minutes on the ground on 20 takedown attempts, that, I would be a lot more worried about Drew Dober losing this fight if this wasn't short notice, because what the control time numbers are telling me is that McKinney does have the chance to win minutes and rounds with his wrestling against Drew Dober. The question is, can he go a full 3 rounds pushing that type of a wrestling heavy game plan and top control heavy game plan and submission attack game plan on short notice, 2 weeks removed from another fight, two weight cuts? All this stuff is so important. There are narrative issues of this fight that are very important to talk about here, and that 2 fights in 2 weeks is of paramount importance here, because, short of Terrance McKinney landing a big strike on the feet, which we know he can do, but we also know that Drew Dober has got this iron chin. If it means that Terrance is going to have to win 15 minutes with his wrestling, I don't know, man. It just seems like it might be too much to ask on short notice for him. Terrance can win minutes. Can he win moments in the grappling? Can he submit Drew Dober? That's what I'm not confident about. And I think if he goes for it and fails, that we'll see when the fight gets back on the feet, Drew march him down and knock him out. So I do think that Terrance can get takedowns here. I don't know if he can submit them in enough time in order for me to be confident that he'll be able to win this fight, because I don't think he can win enough minutes to win a decision, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying in here. And we got my guy F. Carrillo, one of the most definitely one of the most generous guys that watches my show, here with another donation. Ring a ding. Dang, you guys. F. Carrillo saying, what can I say? No words to describe the grind you put in, Unc. Jesus loves you. Ja loves you, my man. I love you. I love everybody who watches the show, you guys. You guys make it possible for me to do this, and I couldn't do it without you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks once again for the unbridled generosity, F. Carrillo. It means so much, brother. Thank you. And we got Frank, what up, bro? He's saying, and Chris saying, word, okay, yeah, I knew that was always one thing I liked about Dober was the good camp at elevation. Always has the good cardio to go with the chin. Absolutely. That's the combination that I like. And hi, UB Blood. Yeah, that's right. Blood in the room. F. Carrillo saying, made back to Houston from Baton Rouge about an hour ago. I know you were out on that oil and gas grind today, brother, but I know that you got the job done like you always do. And when you get the job done, you can count on coming home, turning on your computer, and watching your Uncle Weezy get the job done, break the stats down for you, man. So much love to you. I think Unc talked me out of putting anything else on McKinney. Well done. Still not ashamed of the plus 155, though. I'm not ashamed of that either, dude. Look, he's live. I'm not saying he's not live. I don't have the balls to bet Dober right now, you guys. I'm picking Dober to win the fight, but I feel a lot better about betting the fight doesn't go to decision. I got it at minus 200 earlier in the week, but it covers both sides. It covers the McKinney early submission or flash knockout, and then it covers McKinney pushing a wrestling heavy game plan for about a round and a half, being unable to continue pushing that pace on short notice, having just fought 2 months ago or 2 weeks ago. And then in addition to that, having a veteran who hits as hard as Drew Dober and who's faced the level of competition as Drew Dober, being able to withstand those shots, I think that that's the bet for this one. But if you're on either side, I wish you luck. But I prefer that you get lucky by having your fighter finish inside the distance. And we got Dober, or we got, let's see here, Marcus Mustard saying, Dober man pincher. Yes, hung in there against Riddell. Riddell looked good as it went on, though. Yeah, Dober hurt Riddell early, and then Riddell did a really good job of selling out for the wrestling and stalling when he was hurt. Got himself back into the fight, and then really started putting it on Dober late in that fight. And Dober really showed off his chin and his toughness in that one, man. Excuse me. And Frank, by the way, saying, oh, yes, let's go, man. And we got EB saying same thought process here. Nice, man. And we got Blood Money saying, I think I would still favor Dober even if McKinney was on a full camp for McKinney. Yeah, plus 155 is a good line, though. It is, man. It's a good line. And Power Wipe saying, I'd take the over 1.5 if we don't know who will win. It's minus 130. And, yeah, I'll probably parlay the fight doesn't go to decision with Ankalaev for a wee bit extra value. Not a bad idea, man. I think that's a good way to look at it. And Marcus Mustard saying, yes, sir. So let's look at the strength of schedule, you guys. So Drew Dober has got a 1.19 ratio, and Terrance McKinney has a 1.75. But we see here that Dober's fighting the far more experienced competition. The average record of a Dober opponent is 4.82 wins, 4.06 losses. And the average record of a McKinney opponent, 2.33 wins, 1.33 losses, with a 1.75 win-to-loss ratio. The wins are of guys that are just under a 500 record here for Drew Dober. 4.11 wins, 4.22 losses, 8.33 total fights, and a less than 1 ratio of 0.97. While McKinney's fighting the less experienced competition, he's fighting guys with better win-loss records on the ratio at 2.5 wins, 1.5 losses, 4 total fights, a 1.67 ratio. And McKinney, he lost to a 2-1 fighter, and the average fighter that beats Drew Dober has 6 wins, 3.86 losses for 9.86 total fights, and a 1.56 ratio. If we look at the last 5 here, obviously Dober's fighting the better competition with Marco Polo Reyes, Nasrat, Alexander Hernandez, Islam Makhachev, and Brad Riddell, while we got for Terrance McKinney, Dedrick Sanders, Tanino Gavino, Michael Irizarry Ortiz, and then the Frivola knockout and the Fares Ziam submission. So we went through McKinney's record here a little bit, and we see, Ortiz 12-3 before the UFC here in LFA, Gavino 10-4, Dedrick Sanders 3-2, and then the back-to-back losses to Derek Minner and Sean Woodson. Minner was in MCF. He lost via triangle choke, took him down, wound up in his guard. You know how dangerous Minner is off his back. So, and then the wins before that to Sharon Spain, 16 wins, 30 losses. Bobby McIntyre, 9 wins, 5 losses. Jeff Coleman, 0 wins, 4 losses. A loss to Tyrone Henderson with a leg injury in the first round. And then he got that 1 win in the third round via heel hook over Brandon Todd. And then a win over Tyrone Henderson before that, the guy that he hurt his leg against later. Armando Best and Armando Best. So Armando worst, though, with that 2-6 record. But he's also got some amateur fights here, too. Well, just one against Cadence Ross, a win there in 15 seconds as well. So even as an amateur, this guy was fighting like he was double parked. And then if we go to the Dober side here, let's look at the UFC record of Drew Dober. We'll kind of zoom out just a little bit so we can get it all on the same page here. And let's highlight the wins here. So we can see a lot of losing records here. Jamie Varner, 3-6. Scott Holtzman, 7-4. Jason Gonzalez, 1-3. Josh Berkman, 6-12. Frank Camacho, 2-5. John Tuck, 4-5. Reyes, 4-4. And then the winning record guys, Hack Paras and Hernandez, both at 5-4. And then back here, it was Holtzman at 7-4. But you do see win by knockout, win by knockout, win by knockout. Couple decision wins, then another knockout, and even a submission here over Jamie Varner. So this guy has only won by decision 3 times in the UFC. So he's definitely finishing inside the distance a lot more than he isn't. The losses going to guys like Riddell, 4-1, Makhachev, 11-1, Dariush, 15-4, Mercier, 7-5, Efrain Escudero, 5-7, Nick Hine, and Sean Spencer. And really, you look here at the control time allowed in the Drew Dober fight. So this column right here is control time. And this one here is control time allowed. And you see in these losses, he's actually out-controlled Spencer 184-52, but he got out-controlled by about 80 seconds by Nick Hine. He got out-controlled by 25 seconds by Leandro Silva. He got out-controlled by 22 seconds by Escudero. Out-controlled by 22 seconds by Mercier. Out-controlled by about 250 seconds by Dariush. Out-controlled by about 550 seconds to Makhachev. And about almost 100 seconds to Brad Riddell. So we do see that this guy, when he's losing fights, he's losing that control time more, and he's getting subbed more often than not. So it's very interesting. If Terrance McKinney was on a full camp here, I'd give him a lot better chance. And I think that he'd actually have, especially if we had seen him just win one decision at some point in his career, or you knew that he could go the full 15 and wrestle for a full 15 effectively and win enough minutes to win a decision. If we had seen that once out of him, we could see a path here if we really dig into these numbers, you guys, where Dober does give up minutes on the ground, where he does get taken down. And we can kind of just quickly look here at the takedown numbers. In these fights, 5 takedowns, 3 takedowns, 2, and then a bunch of zeros. But in the fights that he's losing, he's taken down 12 times out of 5, 9, 14, 18, 29. So, yeah, 12 out of 29 his opponents are on takedown attempts, almost 50% in the fights that he's losing. So he's never been knocked down. You don't see him absorbing a whole lot of strikes here. Islam landed 89. 15, 37, 27, 125, 45, 105. So Dober definitely is a guy who will lose fights when he gives up a lot of control time. And you don't see him, like what you see in these wins is only 67 seconds of control time allowed, 0 seconds, 0 seconds, 0 seconds, 184 against Camacho, 239 against Holtzman, but he actually out-controlled Holtzman 315 to 239. So, when he's winning fights, it's very rarely being out-controlled. So, he's very rarely being out-controlled. So this is something that I think that is very important here. And then, we can go all the way down to the bottom. Terrance McKinney's stats are all the way at the bottom because the original opponent, you guys, was Ricky Glenn. But yeah, we see Fares Ziam, 123 seconds of control time in a 131-second fight. And in this Sean Woodson fight, 409 seconds of cage time. I would say about 350 seconds of that was control time for McKinney. So he's absolutely a guy who can win a bunch of minutes on the ground. I just don't know if he can win a decision yet. That's something we haven't seen yet in his career, and to expect him to do it on short notice against a veteran like Dober, after fighting just 2 weeks ago, I think is a very tall ask. Therefore, the pick is Drew Dober by late knockout, you guys, either late second round, somewhere in the second round or the third round. I think Drew Dober is going to knock out Terrance McKinney if McKinney cannot get an early finish. You guys, it's been a long week of breaking down stats, but I told you guys during story time with Uncle Weezy that I absolutely love my job. So I wouldn't have any other thing that I'd work as hard at than I would for this. So, man, yeah, it's great for you guys to be here hanging out. I appreciate you guys spending your Wednesday night with me. The pick for this fight is going to be Drew Dober by second round knockout, but I love the fight doesn't go to decision bet here. Let's take a look at these lines real quick before we sign off. I see Drew Dober minus 160 is the best that we can find him right now on Bet Online, and Terrance McKinney can get as caught as well as 150 here in a couple of books, plus 140 on Bet Online, plus 144 on FanDuel, plus 145 on DraftKings. The fight doesn't go to decision is kind of getting juiced here. It's up to minus 230 here on Bet Online, and it's minus 280 and minus 270 in FanDuel and DraftKings. So kind of not bettable there, but if you want to parlay that, I wouldn't hate that idea. McKinney inside the distance is sitting about as good as plus 215. Dober inside the distance can be had for plus 150 right now. That's the way that I would play him. Dober by KO is not much better at plus 165, so you might as well just include the submission here and go for that Dober inside the distance prop and not give up too many possible ways that you can get served if this doesn't get your way. So, you guys, thank you for hanging out. I'm going to go maybe even start on next week's stats here, but I've got a lot of work to do for next week. But thank you guys for hanging out on another edition of Balls Deep Breakdown. God bless each and every one of you for spending your Wednesday evening with your Uncle Weezy. Thank you to everybody who donated in the chat. Thank you for everybody who big upped that like button, the subscribe button, who's watched Stat Diggers earlier in the week, who's been on Pub Sports Radio, watching me on Stat Diggers and on the DFS show and on the MMA Engine channel. If you guys have not went over and checked out the new MMA Engine channel on YouTube, check that out. I'm doing content there. The link to the Balls Deep Breakdown I did earlier this week, Pereira versus Silva, is on the MMA Engine channel. It's in the link to the description of this video. Check out all the stats for free. Check out all the other videos I've done for free. And thank you for hanging out. Let's stack cashed tickets like flapjacks, you guys, for UFC Vegas 50. And I will see you right back here next week on my channel for the next UFC event, which is going to be UFC England, headlined by Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you guys next week. God bless.